Hey, it's Clint. You're chilling at the Mana Cooler. Let's talk about evaluating cards. No, not like that. Let's talk about evaluating cards before putting them into your commander decks. I've seen a lot of videos lately that are play this, not that, substitutions on a budget, and those videos are definitely great. But let's take a look at a more powerful deck building tool than those videos, than EDHREC, the most powerful tool of all, your brain. Let's use it to figure out what makes a card good, or rather better than another, and why you should play it. Let's dive on in and try to answer that. But before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe this video. It really does help me out a lot. First and foremost, a cheaper card is not always a better card. Even if it replaces itself or generates value otherwise, low mana value is something that we do have to look at when we're evaluating cards. Thanks to lands being a thing, you do always have to plan around, whether we like to admit it or not, the curve. It's always hanging over our heads, and if we have too many cheap cards, inevitably we'll run out of a hand size unless we have ways to get additional draw as well. As long as you are aware of that, mana value also is a pretty good rough indicator of the power level of a card. Or is it? There's definitely some design choices, especially if we're looking back at older cards like the Power 9, that are still, even to this day, overpowered and undercosted. We've also seen quite a bit of power creep on newer card designs, but the main thing you should worry about for now is how the cards you personally have selected compared to other cards. In that case, less can definitely be more. So, for this example, let's say you're playing a white and blue Azorius deck and you really want to blink just a single creature. Well, there are a ton of cards that let you do that. Flicker of Fate, Momentary Blink, Ephemerate, they'll all accomplish what we're trying to do. But before we even touch on which one we need, let's look at the mana value. And Ephemerate rebounds for 1 mana? What the heck? That's clearly the winner here. There's a reason I use these 3. We'll touch on that in just a little bit. Let's do one more example. Say you really want to draw 2 cards out of black. Night's Whisper will definitely do that if you want to lose 2 life about it. And hey, Sign in Blood does that exact same thing. But here is another caveat that I want to show with this example, that unless you're running a monocolored deck, generic mana costs will always be safer than the full pips, even with the best mana bases. But hey, you're saying both of those cards are 2 mana. Village Rites is cheaper than that. It's only 1. Oh. Yeah, so it's not necessarily cheaper when you also have to sacrifice a cheap creature, but hey, at least it's also cheaper than Altar's Reap. Now, let's go back. We'll look at Flicker of Fate, Momentary Blink, and Ephemerate one more time, and we can definitely guarantee that Ephemerate is the best of the 3. But what if we wanted to blink an enchantment like an Impending Overlord of the Mistmoors we have? Only one of these would actually work for that. Likewise, the rebound on Ephemerate is great, but what if we have some sort of interaction with Flashback we want to take advantage of? Say we've got Savine, the Chronoclasm, that wants us to cast cards from our graveyard. So at that point, evaluating a card, you can't necessarily just use mana value. You gotta look at the flexibility of the card itself. We'll go back to the Night's Whisper and Sign in Blood example as well, because we'll notice that once again, we did just talk about how that pesky second black pip will absolutely sometimes give us problems. But in a pinch, Sign in Blood also can be used to deal those last 2 damage we need to remove a player from the game. Or you can even use it as a politics piece. Hey, you want to draw? That's a nice thing to do. And other examples we have of cards where flexibility just absolutely comes to the forefront is things like Boros Charm. I've directly won games using all 3 of the options on this card before. And even then, Standard has recently showed us even more that off-the-wall shenanigans, such as eroding a creature, can even be a source of mana ramp. So just don't look at the primary function of each card when you're evaluating. Things can also be a little bit tricky when we're looking at dual modal cards like Sink into Stupor, which is an awful land and an overpriced bounce card, but it's absolutely solid when you can choose which one of those things you need. The flexibility really is key there. And as sort of an addendum to flexibility, but something very important to mention, the simpler or more generic an ability is, the more chance you'll have it of making an impact in your games. Exile target creature is a lot more straightforward and usable than destroy target attacking creature with 4 or higher toughness who ate peanut butter and jelly for breakfast. So, you know, those cards might not be a clear winner compared to something that just does the thing that it says. But even then there's other considerations taken into effect. Like Generous Gift, while there is the downside with Generous Gift of giving a token, it just says destroy target permanent. I feel this is often underlooked when people are looking at removal. They're not realizing the total scope of the things you can actually take out with the removal piece. However, there is one caveat here as well. We're going down a lot of caveats. Keep in mind, destroying is not necessarily as good as exile. We like exiling best if we can exile. Just keep that in mind. Ephemerate keeps coming up a lot here. It's a great card when we're looking at a topic like this, because, you know, it's what I really like about this card is you get its effect multiple times. However, if we go away from instants, remember, we're still playing a blue deck. In this first example, Soul Herder, Thassa Deep Dwelling, Conjurer's Closet, and Y'shtola Rule are all permanents that do this. That means we get repeatable options, and we're not just one and done losing that resource. You'll notice though that the cheapest of the repeatable options is Azorius though, so unless No Fun Allowed is part of your color identity, you're not going to have access to this. As long as you're at least in blue, you have something like Thassa Deep Dwelling, which is a great card for other reasons, like its ability to tap permanents and just the fact that it'll give you a beefy indestructible 6/5 at some point. But we also have to weigh that versus Y'shtola Rule, who does 2 blinks at end step. So, you know, is that extra mana and lack of those other riders, is that really worth it for your deck as well? It's up to you. I also want to point out, say we're not playing blue or white. Well, in that case, Conjurer's Closet's going to be the best option we have. It's not necessarily the fact that it's the best card that does what it does, but that's the only card for our color identity that will work. Let's dive a little bit deeper and start to bridge some of these concepts together. When does the card's effect happen? There's a lot of cards you'll notice that when you cast them, it'll say during your upkeep, during your end step. It'll give you these timed triggers like during combat. You know, in most cases though, if you're looking at the most bang for your mana value, you'll want to go and prioritize cards that focus on the here and now. So anything you have that's going to be dependent on another trigger occurring, especially attack triggers on things that don't have haste, we can't guarantee that the mana you're paying goes towards the effect you're looking for. A lot of the times we've seen in the modern commander design space, the creatures will get both a triggered ability on attack, but more importantly, on enters. And that really does feel like an incredibly intentional choice, because this is a signal that, hey, this is a good card. You're going to get the ability at least once on enter. Don't worry about it if you don't get that second trigger until you recast it. And I feel that this is the kind of incentive too, to show you that this is a commander you should be playing, I will take any incentive to build new commander decks that I want. So this isn't a judgment on the actual physical availability of a card, but rather how many similar cards have the similar effect. So with that in mind, a card with a much more niche ability will always justify being worth its mana, as long as it's a combo piece or otherwise it is vital to your game plan. Likewise, as Commander is a singleton format, if you've already filled your deck with Demonic Tutor, Vampiric Tutor, Imperial Seal, well then, Grim Tutor starts to look a bit more desirable if you decide you still don't have enough tutors. All this being said, the most important way to evaluate cards, no matter how you look at them, is really to just play with them. Play a wide variety of your own decks, play against a wide variety of different pods, take a look at a bunch of different deck lists. Even pre-con deck lists can give you a place to start as well. Their overall construction and various packages tend to get more refined each set and closer to what you can expect sitting down at a bracket 2 or thereabouts table. So it's a good source of information. And honestly, don't be afraid to use EDHREC. Sure, it is really easy to just go and grab the top cards listed, but if you use your own critical thinking, it can also help you discover cards you may not have known about, or it might just send you down into a Wikipedia-style 2 AM hole that you might not escape from. But barring all of those options, try your hand at using the advanced search on Gatherer for rules text as well. And while we're on the topic of gathering, there's a lot of different magic to gather into your decks and a whole lot of ways to figure out what works best for you. But once again, it all boils down to just playing the cards and having a good time. Thanks for watching this video. If you haven't already, please feel free to like and subscribe. Really do appreciate seeing things in the comments below. How do you evaluate cards? Feel free to let me know. Have a good one.